So let's wrap with this. So, like I don't want to be all doom and gloom. Like everything in sports and life is cyclical, and things just kind of rotate through. That's just the way it works. And so I think with the new chaos we have in college sports, there is a road for the Big West to be one of the powerhouse conferences in college baseball again. And I don't want to paint it as like it's terrible now. Like, hey, these Santa Barbara teams have been great. And Fullerton's team a couple years ago that Jason Dietrich did, I think we all agree Dietz is great. He's a Titan through and through. He's got a staff full of Titans. Like I'm really encouraged, and Irvine has been phenomenal. There's a lot of TJ Bruce back at Long Beach. There's a lot of positive things that we can point to. The elephant in the room is that the SEC and the ACC have really sprinted ahead in college baseball. So the question becomes, like, if the four of us were in charge of college baseball, what are rules that we could put into play that we could revive some of the parity in our sport? And I've said this out loud many times that, hey, like we can't be mad at the SEC because they love college baseball too much, right? Like part of the issue here is the SEC loves college baseball. Like at its core, that's an awesome thing. But we also can't give them so much rope that they can suffocate the rest of the sport, right? Like there's a real needle to thread there. So I'm going to give you guys, I've heard Kendall say this, that, hey, the California schools in the quote unquote power leagues are now going to play cross country. Like maybe that's a real opening for the Big West. Like the best amateur players in the country are still in California. And if you're a California kid that wants to play your college baseball in California, no offense, but the Big Ten is not California. The ACC is not California. The Big West is a California league. So maybe that's an opportunity. Hey, the fact that we could have unlimited scholarships for Fullerton to go from 11.7 scholarships to 18 scholarships just in state is a much lighter lift than a private school where the scholarships are, I don't know, 80 grand a year. So I don't know, like if it was easy, we'd already have the answers. I get that. But let me give you guys a couple things. And you tell me what you think is the idea that might help the most. So I wrote down 3 things. One is whatever our roster limit is, whether it's 34 or 38 or 40, whatever it is, you have to declare it August 15th when school starts. I think that would prevent the bloated fall rosters, and we're kind of just like chewing up players. And then I do worry about it. That's one example, that whatever our roster size is, we have to declare it in the fall so we're not burning so many players. And, the top programs are hoarding players right now. Number 2 would be the 32-72 proposal where, hey, everything in the tournament is the NCAA tournament's 3-game series. We go to 32 hosts. We expand it to 72 teams. So the Big West schools, there's more space for them to host. There's more space for them to get in the tournament more regularly. And then the other thing would be, hey, like, can the Fullertons and the Irvines and the Long Beaches of the world, the Santa Barbaras, can we get them more scholarships? Can they go from 11.7 to 15 or 16? Does that move the needle enough, knowing that not every school is going to increase scholarships in baseball? Some schools are going to say, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. George, I'll start with you. Of those ideas, what's the one that you like? If you could only plant a flag on one, where would you start?
Well, I think what the West Coast is going to have to look at. I listened to your podcast with Case last Sunday. He brought out him seeing this coming a long ways as far as fans showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Beaver Nation travels tremendous. Coach Casey did a tremendous job up there. Their fan base actually reminds me a lot of the Titan fan base because I've lived the other side of that, Oregon, going to Oregon State at Goss and playing, and then being the head coach at Fullerton and then coming back to play him when Ricker Dave was there, right? And experiencing that fan base and tradition. It's tough to play at Goss. It was tough to play at Fullerton. And what a shame, Case kept talking about USC and that beautiful field, and visiting teams have more fans in the stands on a weekend pack series than USC fans,
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not going to get it at the turnstile. You're not going to get it through donors. They're still catching up in basketball and football on the donor base to try to get endowments like the SEC has and places like SMU. I think what's going to have to be looked at is the university presidents out here are going to have to look at tuition waivers and stuff to increase the scholarship numbers to fight that battle that we can get athletes in the Big West Conference, regardless of what the roster size is, to be able to compete with that. Because, it's not easy for the moms and dads of the world to save enough money with rising university costs and send their kids to school for 3 years, hoping, they probably spend it all going to PG tournaments and showcases and hitting coaches along the way. And now all of a sudden they're there and ready to go to college and they don't have any money left. Right.
Yep.
So, I don't know if they'll buy in. I think coaches forever, the over recruiters that recruit 6 shortstops, we've been accused of that back in my junior college days and at Fullerton. I think if there's a roster number, they're still going to find ways around that, maybe, because they've always done it, right? They're going to try to protect themselves, their jobs. And let's face it, the kind of salaries that they're paying Division I head coaches nowadays in baseball, it's become less of a moral sport. And I'm going to stick with you. And you better be good, right? Otherwise, you're not working, right? And the good thing about NIL and roster size and the quality of the SEC, what a great product college baseball is. Great players.
100%.
NIL keeps kids from signing them when they shouldn't out of high school. And so the completeness and the depth of those rosters, they're like pro teams, right? The sad thing for me is you might not see like the 03 Titans, 7 of those kids developing, and you're allowed to be patient enough to redshirt them when their time comes and they're ready to play, that they perform like you described from our past teams, right? If you have to win and that kid's not ready, he gets shipped out. He never gets to develop in your own program. That's sad for me because we've all come from development programs, right? Great traditional programs. We get elite players, but our programs were always based on getting better each and every day for the tournament at the end, the last game.
Yep. The tuition waiver. That's really interesting, especially given that you're in the state of California. Hookie, you go, and then Dave. What do you think, Hookie, about the 3-game series for the NCAA tournament? Do you like that better than the old regional format, or you think you like the old regional format better?
I like it. I like the 3-game series, but it's like tuition remission or tuition waivers. If you're a state school, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it only costs, I don't know what it costs to go to Fullerton, $1,000 a year. USC's $80,000 a year.
Right.
They want that education because it's USC as they go about it. But I don't see how that will matter one way or another. I think they should have a limit on how many guys on a team.
Yep. That's where I'm with you, Hookie. That's where I'm at. Like the fall roster limit to me feels like really important. And I get it. In fairness to today's coaches, like, hey, I was guilty of over recruiting. We were doing that, air quotes over recruiting. We were doing that at Arizona State. And, it's competitive business. We all get that. No one's blaming anybody. Hey, but I think what's different now compared to when we were doing it is the transfer portal, where, it's one thing that I'm over recruiting and then sorting them out, but it's another thing where I'm keeping those kids off of, I don't know, Grand Canyon's campus. And then at the end of the spring, I'm taking their 3 best players. If I'm Arizona State, that's not really happening, but you could change that to any location that you want. That's where it gets really problematic, where you're just absolutely suffocating those schools.
Wasn't it between 3 and 4 when Schroyer was going to come play for us in 04?
What you mean? What years?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the closer on the 03 team. And then, that was a classic Murph story. He blocked Schroyer's transfer to every school.
Because we were rivals. That was a head scratcher.
Well, we felt that, not to belabor the show, but maybe this is part 2. We felt that Schroyer's agents had predetermined that. And so Murph, that was classic Murph. He gave him a release to 277 schools. and the 278th school was Fullerton. You can go anywhere in America except.
Yeah, I yelled at him. I got to see him in Colorado this
Yeah.
year. What a great job he's done. Congratulations,
Super
man.
cool.
We're so proud of him, right?
Yeah.
We weren't like that all the time, but I did yell at him because he ruined my summer vacation. I was in Big Bear, and these guys said, "Hey, Murph's not going to release Schroyer."
Oh,
I said,
man.
"Well, we went the whole summer thinking we had him, and then, whoops."
Yeah. Then he
We
went to
might have
San
been
Diego
pretty good
State.
that year with him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You guys might have won the national championship. Oh, that's right. You did. Gotta love it. Dave, what do you think? What's your gut on this?
No doubt in my mind, Runes, and you talk about it a lot, is the 3-game series. I think college baseball is set up for 3-game series. I think more teams getting in, it will allow more West Coast teams to get in. But I say that cautiously, Runes, because we talked about this the other day when we all spoke, knowing we were going on the show, that if you go back to our rosters in the 2000s, how many of those guys, if the rules were in place like they are now, how many of those guys do we keep to be able to go to Omaha and win a national championship? You raved about Costa. Who's to say that you guys at Arizona State wouldn't have been able to prompt him to come to you guys because you had more toys than we did? And so that's the part for me that's really at that level now, that mid-major, for some of those programs, that's going to make it very difficult. I think the 3-game series, adding more teams, will benefit those programs. But the way guys are being poached now off of rosters, you said it perfectly. I mean, a guy can go to a mid-major and he does well. And like, we had a lot of guys do well. Who's to say you guys wouldn't have wanted Danny Dorn and Chad Cordero and David Bacani and go down the list?
Nevin and Mark Kotze.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's where I think the negativity is against for the schools like the Fullertons of the world in the Big West.
Yeah.
I like that 2 out of 3, not only to get more West Coast teams in, but now we have West Coast regionals, so the young kids can go and look and say, I want to be that one day, right? That's the real sad thing. And we've always complained in the West that the journey is always through each other. You guys got sent out to play us every year. Stanford and us matched up, and one of us eliminated one or the other, whether it was in Omaha or here. And now they seem like they protect the 11 or 12 teams that get in the SEC, and they can all make it to the SEC tournament called the College World Series, where we always felt that like they were trying to eliminate us by putting 3 top 25 teams in one 4-team regional and putting it at either Arizona State, Fullerton, or Stanford, right? And then we have one horse in the running, and we had a pretty good percentage of winning with that one horse or 2 horses, right? And so that's the sad thing for the youth, that they can't experience that. And then maybe we need to look at more regionalization in whatever the road is to Omaha, with 32 3-game series is out there or whatever. Then the path can have a West Coast team, not SEC or ACC, in the College World Series. And as we all know, in baseball, anything can happen when you get hot.
Yep. Amen. Yeah, and I agree. Hosting regionals, that's when schools start investing. It's so great. And we'll wrap there, guys. And I'll just say this. College baseball is better when the Titans are great, right? When Cal State Fullerton's great at college baseball, it's better for the sport.